Welcome back to this week's traffic report. We are here in the intersection, and this week we wanted to look at this post by Derek Minor. John, you found this one online, and it was a heater.
Yeah, man, I love this. It corresponded to his latest album, which is like one of my favorite tracks right now. Hallelujah by Derek Minor is one of my favorite tracks right now. For a while, this with my 2023, I was like, man, this is my theme song right now.
Yeah.
This is my theme song.
Bro, that album is slapping, and it's always good to hear some of that back and forth, some of the behind the scenes. It always enriches it. So let's look at what Derek had to say that inspired him. Here's his post. It says, 2023 has had some deep losses. At times, I've even wondered if I lost my way. Truth is, I've felt lost ever since American Christianity got exposed during the past 10 years. Politics, race, greed, etc. I spent much of my life in church and no longer recognized my home. I spent the better part of the past 5 years questioning, did I waste my time?
Yeah.
I'm sure some of you relate. Being a Christian artist, I'm sure I was even a part of the problem. I thought the solution was to distance myself. I'm sure y'all noticed a shift in my content. I never lost my love for God, but I couldn't create another who you know because I had brothers and sisters in CHH or Christian hip hop break my heart. The church broke my heart. Life broke my heart. I was broken. As a result, my focus and content was broken and fragmented. I'm sure some relate. The end of 2021, I began to attempt to try and repair the fragments. It was a lot. I realized I was a part of the problem because I hadn't dealt with my own trauma. The trauma was a lens that I viewed the world through. By 2022, I had an album called Nobody's Perfect. Nobody's Perfect musically documented my healing. I traveled the world to play it for people. I thought it was a great marketing plan, but inside I was hoping to see something. It finally sunk in that the church is just a bunch of effed up people like me. We all got our poop emoji.
Yeah.
That allowed me to look at my brothers and sisters with grace because I know the trauma I carry. They carry it too. We need help. We need love. We need each other. I now have a better understanding of what God means by we overcome by the power of our testimony. Your testimony isn't for you. It's for others to visibly see that there's hope for their situation because someone close to them has overcome. My story of brokenness and healing inspired others, and they inspired me. God blessed me with a gift this year. My brother's life changed for good. My cousin is now following God. She's been celibate for 2 years. They both said that I inspired them. I was at my lowest and thinking I was lost and not making an impact, but all the while, God was using me. I say this because my story isn't unique. Some of you are in my exact same position and need hope. You need to know that your sacrifice has not been in vain. God is not done with you. You aren't washed up. He even uses you when you are broken. Save this message when you feel lost. Know that my testimony isn't a thing just for me. It's a universal testament to what God has been doing for people since the beginning of time, and it's yours if you want it. Hang in there. I believe in you. Derek Vigilante.
Wow. Man, I as a leader in the church, there's almost nothing. Let me go back. People ask more about how to deal with church hurt than they do with eternal security. Excuse me. That should tell us something, man, and it's real. Yeah. It's real. I mean, 2023 was a hard year for me. Most of y'all guys know I lost my mom on the next to the last day of 2023. Like right before I lost my mom, man, my furnace at the house went out, my car went down, dishwasher broke. I had issues. Some things happened to my kids in 2023. Things happened at the church. Things happened in the nonprofit I lead. Man, I was suffering panic attacks most of the year, just from straight. I had blood coming from different orifices. I mean, it was
Sheesh.
it was a crazy, crazy hard year, man, and I went through some things, but 2023 wasn't the beginning of it, and so I've endured a lot of church hurt in my history, man, of just that, and so I felt it like so like on that song Hallelujah. One of the things that made like he opens up the song said, "I gave God all my pain, but forgot to give him praise,"
Praise.
and I feel like we can be like that sometimes, man. I see Christians so easily share memes about the church, so easily share the post on social media about the person who came to the bar and everybody welcomes in the church that doesn't. And I'm like, man, I've seen our church dozens of times, over and over again, welcome people. Uh, I see people that make posts about not being accepted because they wear a baseball cap. Our church, me, the pastor, I preach in a baseball cap. I preach in shorts and jerseys. And but one of the things I brought up to a group of people, I said, man, there's a couple of guys that travel around, and what they're social media restaurant critics. And they post these videos where they go to different cities and they try out all these different places. And this one guy went to Atlanta and made some posts about like his realistic experience at these restaurants. And man, the Atlanta community rose up and said, hey, they might have just had a bad night, but man, you posting this could severely injure their business forever. And I don't see us doing that with the church, man. I see us we're so eager to pile on. And it's not to say there's nothing wrong. And the people didn't say that there was nothing wrong, that, man, these restaurants didn't mess up. They just said we shouldn't pile on.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, man, in our hurt with the church, it is so easy for us to pile on. And he's like, well, Jonathan, people got hurt. Like, yeah, man, you know how many people get food illnesses and different things of that nature from.
Yeah.
And I just think this post is one of those things that made me think about, man, how easy do we pile on the bad stuff, and it prevents people from, not prevents, but it slows down the ability to heal. Because you just get bad story after bad story after bad story, rather than offering some counter examples, not as a whataboutism,
Yeah.
but just so that people get some kind of hope that is more than just the drudgery that they've experienced.
And the reason why I think what you just said is so important is that it's the same reason I share the gospel with all of my atheist friends. My Facebook used to be full of still for the most part is people who aren't believers in Christ, and those are my people in the theater, my people in the music industry, my people like just homies. And I had one of them ask me once, they're like, man, you keep talking about the gospel, but we don't want to hear it. Why do you keep doing that? And I was trying to think of a way to explain it. And I was like, bro, if I saw you in a subway about to get hit by a subway train, I wouldn't just send you a text. I would do everything I could to get you out of there. And you a grown man. I'm not physically able to move you off the tracks. But I would be really upset with myself if I didn't do everything I could to make sure that you knew there's something more for you here. In this post, when Derek says, God blessed me with a gift this year, my brother's life changed for good, my cousin, and he says, I was at my lowest and thinking I was lost and not making an impact, but all the while, God was using me. When I meet people or I think of my friends that don't have hope in Jesus, I want to share that with them, not to convert them, but so they can have hope. When Derek was going through all the stuff that he was going through, he couldn't see how God was using him or how God was using his situation. It felt hopeless for him. But as God revealed what he had been doing, he was then encouraged by how he had seen God move in that situation. There is a hope that those of us who know Christ have that the rest of the world does not have. I don't care how practically good your life is. I don't care how pragmatically things are working out. There is a hope that you just cannot experience when you look at your life and logistically, logically, nothing is working, nothing is right, and nothing makes sense. That those of us who have faith and hope in Jesus Christ get to see God is using me. And we get to believe that.
Can I tell you that even sometimes those of us who have faith in Jesus Christ can't see it? Man, it's the John the Baptist when he was in prison, right? He was supposed to be the greatest of the prophets, right?
Yeah.
And he was in prison and he was like, man, I am down and out. Like, go ask us, he the one. And I can tell you, man, I was on fire for God, got out of college, man. It just, God was doing things and moving my life, moving me forward. I was sharing the gospel all over the world, man. Seeing people come to faith, baptizing people, all these crazy stories, right? And then, man, I felt this call to church plant. And I thought that all these people that was cheering me on and stuff all this time would be happy for me and would support it. And then I felt so alone. But see, a lot of those times that I went out sharing the gospel and different things of that nature, I went out alone. This is part of the danger of Lone Ranger ministry, man. So I had done so much of life alone that I had this don't believe me, just watch kind of mentality, like attitude.
Trinidad James.
And so I was going to prove people wrong by doing it. And then, man, in that process of church planning, man, it was like grief on top of grief on top of grief. And I was just and then 2016 hit. And that's when, remember, the different shootings and the election, some of the things people were saying in the church.
This is right after Trayvon Martin.
Social media started like really, really popping off. And like, then you have days like, man, on MLK Day, where people just saying crazy stuff, like even just recently on MLK Day where Phil Vischer posted something positive and somebody said, well, you're going to go to hell with your chocolate hero in response to his positive quote and encouragement from MLK. And so you start seeing stuff like that from people within the church that you've sat in the pews with, that you have sung with, and it's like grief on top of grief, man. And you're like, man, I don't know how much this take. And it really took other people speaking in. And I can tell you that even in 2023, that if it would have been for God sending people to speak into my life, I would have walked away from ministry. And those really close to me could tell I was struggling, right? You knew y'all knew I was struggling, and I'm like the eternal optimist in a lot of deals, like, yeah, we're gonna overcome, yeah. But y'all could tell I was struggling, and I still showed up, man. I was doing the different things, not half-hearted, going full blow with everything I had in me, and just crumbling. And I needed other people to speak into my life, man. And that's the value of community, because we can't always see. And so, man, to be there, and when you're just going through that and experiencing that, if you don't have someone to speak in, even those with the hope of Christ in us, man, Ecclesiastes tells us the value of people in our lives.
It's crazy too, right? Because the people in your life that can hurt you the most are the people that you're the closest to.
Yeah.
Like your deepest wounds often come from family.
Yeah.
But they also often have the deepest capacity to heal too. And so it's like hurts done by family often need to be healed by family.
Yeah, and what I love too in this is where he talks about, he said, the end of 2021, I began to attempt to try and repair the fragments. And that's the deal is like, man, healing is a journey. It's not an event. Healing is a journey, not an event, man. And you're going to find yourself, like if you've ever put together a big jigsaw puzzle where you start with this one little piece and you just keep trying pieces that look like it could go together and they don't fit and you're like, man, I can't even force this in there. As much as you're trying and then you finally find a piece and you're like, oh, I got two pieces. And then you go through the same process again of just trying. And then a couple times you get in a little rhythm where you're like, I got a couple pieces. And then you get right back to trying and the piece doesn't fit. And man, I kind of have that as the mental picture of how healing looks sometimes. And the reason you stick with it is you want to see the ending. You want to rejoice at the finished picture because you've seen it, because you have the box.
Right. You got the model.
You got the box. And I think the same thing is we got to have the same kind of vision when it comes to the church.
Yeah.
We're going to be putting pieces together, attempting to heal and put the fragments together. And we can't give up on it when a piece doesn't fit because we do have the scriptures. We have what it's supposed to look like in the end. What we read in the scriptures, in the description is what it's supposed to look like in the end. Is not necessarily what we're going to always experience as we try to put the fragments back together. And it's having that persistence and that perseverance to stick with it as a bunch of people all at the same time are trying pieces to put the brokenness in their lives back together at the same time.
And I think people need to hear that. The realistic, the realness that there's going to be some times where you thought a piece fit and then you find another piece and you go, I had the wrong piece there the whole time. And it might be with your church, it might be with your community group, it might be with your theology. It might be all of those things can happen and sometimes you feel so downtrodden and downcast because you're like, I thought I had it. I thought I had it, but there's still more to find.
But he hits on it in there. His healing didn't start until he started to deal with his own trauma. You know, we enacted the SEL team here at Fellowship Hi-Crest. Man, we have our social emotional learning team to where if you want to become a volunteer, even open doors, we want you to meet with a team of therapists that we have to start processing, is this the right opportunity? Is this the right time? Is there healing that needs to take place before you put yourself in this situation? So that this is something that's cathartic for you and that leads you to your next step and not a back step in your journey. And there's so many people who will refuse to take that look. They'll refuse to take that look because they're afraid. And my encouragement is don't be afraid, man. Embrace it. And there's so many people that want to walk beside you in your healing and your journey. But a lot of times, all that angst and whatever you're upset about or whatever, your experience with the church won't change
Until you change.
change.
And here's what's important about that and why it has to happen in community. I'm working on a project called Work in Process.
Yeah.
And I've been processing traumas in my life from 2020. And I've been writing these songs through that time period. And I got with the SEL team and I said, here's what I want to do. I want you guys to speak into this project. I've outlined like the different social and emotional topics in the songs. And I want you guys to help me make this stronger because I want this project to help other people process their trauma and not just for this to be cathartic for me. Because there's times, and I talked with one of our therapists just the other day about this, there's times in which you can start to open up your trauma and realize you just opened up a can of worms and now you just broke. All your brokenness is just out there.
You
You're
have
just
no
bleeding all over the
tools.
floor. You have no tools. You have nothing to put you back together. It's not enough just to acknowledge that you're broken and try to fit. You need help to fix it. You probably needed help to get the damage. You need help to fix it. And it's important that you have the resources and the tools to walk through that. And nowhere have I ever heard of people having the tools to work through mental health and them being solo tools where
Bro,
it doesn't involve
if you
someone
don't
else.
have the help to actually fix it, to actually, I don't like to fix. If you don't have the help to heal.
Mm-hmm.
All you do is leak over everybody else.
Yeah. And then you do more damage to them and to yourself.
You become a part of the trauma that you've experienced. And so, man, as you like, I love this post. It shows somebody's process through. If you haven't checked out that song "Hallelujah" by Derek Minor, man, go check that track
It's
out.
hot.
Let's
Hot.
include that link in the caption, man, where people can get a hold of that. And man, I just challenge y'all to begin processing your church hurt, not in a way where you just pile on, but in a way that leads to health. Not in an abandonment sense of it, where we got to get away from something and start something new, but in a we're all trying to fit the fragments back together in the puzzle. Man, it's been a joy once again to be here in the intersection with y'all guys. We can't wait to see you on our next traffic report.